All right, we are live. Hey, everybody, welcome. We're so glad you're here. It's Ash Wednesday. We know that it is a big day, so we appreciate your time. We're going to get started here in just a minute, but while we are waiting, if you would, we've had a few of you have said hello in the chat, but if you haven't already, let us know where you're tuning in from today and your role, if you could, and then I don't know, maybe we should do another fun little icebreaker. Maybe tell us your favorite Easter candy, even though that's not the focus of this
I love that.
webinar.
It's like it's Peeps or jelly beans.
Yeah, well, those Reese's eggs, girl. Don't you forget the Reese's eggs.
My goodness.
They're the best.
Yeah, Katie likes the Peeps. I love it. Jelly beans are good too. Oh, the Starburst jelly beans. Yes, it's got to be the Starburst ones. Those are so good. Awesome. So glad you're here, friends. We were notified through a social media post that like, hey, why would you have this webinar on Ash Wednesday? And we honestly, at that point, it was too late to move it. So again, we appreciate y'all being here. And we are officially 40 days to Easter, right? Yeah. So yes.
It's crazy.
I know. Chocolate eggs, Reese's eggs. Yeah, come on with it. Now everyone's craving Reese's.
Now, there's also the whole debacle around fresh Peeps or stale Peeps, right?
Oh, what? That's a thing? Who
Did you
eats
know?
stale Peeps? No, that's gross.
CVS puts them on the back aisle. Like,
No way.
yes, you can buy them stale from CVS.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's outrageous.
It's a whole thing.
Dang.
That sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I don't love a regular. I mean, maybe I should give them a try. I don't know, but anyway, okay, y'all. Thank you again for letting us know where you're from and who you are. We truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to always join us for webinars. It is encouraging to us that the information that we provide to you is hopefully valuable. We have a lot of wonderful content prepared for you today. And I am so grateful for our co-hosts. There's not often three of us, so hopefully we won't go long on time because we're all passionate about this and excited to share information with y'all. But just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. You all have found the chat, obviously. There's also another tab right next to the chat that says Q&A. That is where we would like for you to put your questions. I'm going to repeat that again. We would like you to put your questions in the Q&A. And here's why, is because my friend Philip is working behind the scenes. He will be answering your questions. And it's a lot easier for him technically on the back side of this platform to answer those questions if they're put in the Q&A tab. If you put it in the chat, there's a chance we won't see it and there's a chance we won't get it answered for you. So please do that. And Philip will get those questions answered as quickly as possible. Also, we're going to be doing a poll at some point, 2 polls during this presentation. The poll will also be within that same chat Q&A. You'll have a new tab at that time that says poll. So we'll remind you of that once the time comes. The other thing that I want to make sure to call out, because this is always the number one question we get, yes, this webinar is being recorded and you will receive the recording tomorrow. Your post-webinar email will have lots of wonderful resources for you, including the recording. You can forward that along to other team members who missed today. That'll get to your inbox 24 hours after this event today. So you should get it, depending on your time zone, like 4 minutes ago tomorrow. Yeah, and if you forget and you ask us again, that's okay. We still love you, but yes, this is being recorded. So with that, I'm driving slides a little differently today, so I appreciate your patience. I'm going to be jumping from one screen to another. So if I'm a little slow to change the slides, that is why. Belinda, glad you found the chat, girl. Welcome. Okay, so quick introductions. My name is Jess Moore. I've been at Ministry Brands for 7 years. And I have done a few webinars. So hopefully, if you've been on a webinar before, we have met. I am super excited today to introduce two people that work here at Ministry Brands. They're wonderful human beings, both at work and outside of work. They are pouring into the church, and I love that. And that's why I asked them to be on this webinar with me today, because they're going to bring product knowledge to you all and just efficiencies and ways you can leverage tools to make Easter weekend and beyond easier for you, but also they understand intimately the needs of what it takes to put together a big, long weekend like Easter with additional visitors, guests, kids activities, all the things. And so I'm very excited to have them here. Kira, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Sure, thank you. And Jess is also a wonderful person, both inside work and outside work as well. So we appreciate you, Jess. My name is Kira Brown. I am the Senior Director of Product Management here at Ministry Brands. I oversee quite a few products, both in our core space, which is where our people platform lives, as well as our protection side of the house. But outside of work, I'm also very involved in church. I am the children's director at Cornerstone Baptist Church in Florence, South Carolina, where I live. I've been the director for my church for a number of years now, and before that, served very regularly across the organization as well. So I kind of hold a lot of hats, right? I oversee about 200 children on a Sunday. So I hope that all of the information we'll talk about today will be enlightening, both from a product perspective as well as from a children's ministry perspective, and church as a whole as well.
Let us know in the chat if you're the children's minister at your church or wear that hat in addition to other hats. Let us know and we'll show you a little bit of love. So Jonathan, tell us about you.
Yeah, for sure. Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me as well. Jonathan, I'm a manager of our product management team. So I oversee a couple areas of product, specifically around digital engagement and AI and accounting. So super excited to be able to bring that knowledge to this webinar as well. In addition, my wife and I started a church about 5 years ago. And so we served as the lead pastors of a church that, man, it's really hard to start a church plant. It's kind of weird to say it's not a church plant anymore, but we started as a church plant and it's been 5 years strong. So yeah, I kind of get to blend both areas of my career into this, and I'm super excited about that.
You're like considered an old church now, Jonathan.
Yeah. I guess so.
That's
right.
5 years and counting, you're a whole hand, so you're considered old at this point.
That's right. That's a
big deal these days, I feel like. So
yeah.
Congratulations, Jonathan. I love that. Okay, let's quickly talk about why Easter planning matters maybe more than other weekends. So obviously, this is very known fact that Easter is often the highest attended weekend of the year, right there neck and neck with Christmas. Many guests attend church once a year. Many guests attend this service only once a year out of obligation or tradition, right? Like grandma told me to be here, or, maybe we did a podcast on this recently, Kendall and I, and maybe these are families that have a special needs kiddo that otherwise would just tune in from home and they're attending for the first time. Maybe someone is, just unable to walk and it's just easier. So you're getting a lot of first time visitors, but even I guess they'd be first time visitors, even if they're online members or whatever. But this is a big deal for those folks that don't normally ever go to church and they're coming to church literally just once a year. This may be their once a year exposure to Jesus. And that's obviously the most important thing. And so planning well will just remove those distractions. Your church and their experience there, the smiles they see when they walk in, the ease of being able to find things like kids ministry or the restroom, not having to ask a million questions to know where they're going or what they're doing. Those things matter. because, people usually decide whether they're going to come back to a church or not pretty dang quickly. So you want to be very thoughtful in your preparation. It does matter. It matters every single weekend. So a lot of these things you can actually take back and use throughout the year anyway. But thinking through logistics at Easter, we just have to up the ante a little bit because we got a lot more people usually. Okay, so we're using something called the Easter Planning Framework. In full disclosure, this comes out of an ebook that we've released, and it's fantastic. It is a lot more detailed than what we're going to cover today. We just don't have enough time to go through everything in as much detail, obviously. You will receive the complete ebook in your post-webinar email tomorrow. So if you're interested in diving in to the whole thing or even parts of this framework, you will be able to do that. But for today, we're just going to cover the 6 top things, which is vision and goals, promotion and communication, volunteers and logistics. Can I get an amen on volunteers? Worship experience, generosity, and new guest follow-up. So Kira and Jonathan and I are going to kind of tag team talking through these things, but I'm really here to listen and learn from them based on their experience in not only their role at Ministry Brands, but almost more importantly, in their roles at the church. I've volunteered in kids ministry. That is the extent of my church leadership involvement, and I loved it. We had 4 and 5-year-olds, and they're hilarious and completely unfiltered. But I'm no longer serving in that role right now. We're kind of transitioning into a new role. So really, they're the ones that can speak from expertise on the planning side of the house. Philip, too, also is super involved in his church. He's answering your questions behind the scenes. And so, Philip, if you've got anything, you just throw it into the chat. Okay, so Jonathan, take it away with this first slide.
Yeah, for sure. So as Jessica said, Easter isn't just like another big Sunday. It truly is a moment where many people are going to walk into the doors of your church for the very first time, or maybe the only time all year. And so what we call people at our church is CEOs. They're Christmas and Easter only, right? They're only going to come to church on those days. So we have to start with vision. If we don't start with a vision for our Easter event, we're just going to do that. We're going to manage an event instead of leading people. And so what I ask our team and what I ask myself every year is, what is God leading us, or what is God inviting our church to focus on this Easter? Maybe it's outreach, maybe it's hope, maybe it's healing, maybe it's community. But what burdens do you really feel for your city right now? And take those to God and kind of ask God to give you a theme or direction for this particular Easter Sunday. And so vision is super important.
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you. That's so great. I think too, I mean, we're getting to this, but one of the action items is prayer and clarity. And that's a very specific thing to be praying for, instead of just like, dear Lord, we pray that Easter weekend goes well. Like that prayer, Jonathan, that you just mentioned is really cool and really specific. I love that.
It is. And so it's not just creative, right? So like, I think oftentimes we can get stuck in this like creative mindset. How creative can our Easter services be? How creative can we get that weekend? But this is very directional. And so our theme is incorporated in everything we do that Sunday, right? So it's not just the messaging that we have online, but it's also incorporated throughout our kids ministry. It's incorporated through our first impression experience. It's incorporated through the worship set and the message. And so we really try to have a clear theme that prevents a scattered experience for our guests. And yeah, I mean, like I said, first impressions matter. You said this, Jessica. Guests are really deciding very quickly if they're going to come back or not. Something that we share with our team is that guests choose within 7 minutes of pulling into your parking lot if they're going to come back to your church or not. So think about what happens in the first 7 minutes. That's before the preaching, right? Oftentimes, if they're early, unless they're late every Sunday, but they're deciding, before the worship experience. And that's why first impressions are so important. And what I like to ask our team is, who's the one person that you've been inviting to church for a very long time? Or who's the one person that maybe is in your family that hasn't met Jesus yet, right? What if this was the one Sunday that they decided to come to church? What would you want them to hear? What would you want them to experience? What would it look like for them? How friendly is your first impressions team? And then exactly that is success is more than just attendance. It's taking that a step deeper. How many salvations were there? Were next steps clear? Were there conversions on next steps? How many volunteer touch points did you have? What was the impact of our Easter Sunday? As opposed to, as pastors, we can do this. We get stuck in we had the highest attended Sunday ever, right? And
Right.
it's easy to get excited about numbers, but what is the impact that those numbers had in our church?
That requires a different level of reporting and a different level of preparation to understand those things, right? So, like, how would you know how many salvations there are? I'm asking theoretically. I know how you would know, but theoretically
Yeah.
speaking, are you prepared to collect that information in a way that you can then turn around and say, okay, now we can define collective success for the weekend, not just attendance is an easy one to track, right? Like that,
Right.
it's an
Yeah.
obvious one. It's something that's usually already built in. So in addition to attendance, what else should you be preparing to report on in advance, right? You can define success after flippantly and just like, it was a great weekend. Everyone sang on key and we had lots of people ask Jesus into their heart. But if you're not prepared to actually collect numbers on that, then yeah, you're just kind of shooting from the hip there. So yeah, that's great. So we talked about action items, starting with prayer and clarity, and then align staff, volunteers, and messaging around one vision. Jonathan, any suggestions on how to align your staff, volunteers, and messaging?
Yeah, I think you got to start early, right? And so like we're at a perfect time frame right now to start having these conversations, right? And not doing them all by yourself, but having conversations on how we're going to define success, how are we going to define the vision and the theme for our Sunday. What we do at our church is we have this big creative planning meeting right around this time. In fact, we'll be doing it next week at our church, and just deciding what is the direction and theme for this year. So I've been praying about it. I've been asking God about it for our church, and I believe He's led us in a certain direction. So the first thing I'm going to do is create buy-in with our team, our staff, our leaders, and go from there.
Love it. Perfect.
Yeah.
So
Kira, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to tag team off of what Jonathan was saying around establishing that vision, right? So in order to establish that vision, and I'm glad you said what you said, Jonathan, around your church is doing this next week, because I was feeling a little behind. Like I haven't done all of the prep needed for Easter for myself or in our church, but I come to find out our church is also just beginning that process, right? So in order to establish that vision, you have to first take a step back, right? Prayerfully consider what is it that we want this to look like for this year? Where is God leading us, et cetera, like you said. But then you have to plan based on what you know, right? So you have to create that overarching kind of framework for yourself based on hopefully as little guesswork as possible. So one of the things that's really important, I think, are metrics. From a children's perspective, from a non-children's perspective, it's really important to be able to back up and say, what did Easter service look like last year? What did Easter service look like the year before that? How well did we plan last year? What were our, here in software development, we do retros all the time, right? What went well? What didn't go well? What are we going to stop? What are we going to start? Those sorts of things. And I take that into my everyday life, right? What went well with this children's event? What didn't go well? How would we improve this for next year? And I think that's the same for Easter, because every year, as we're listening and approaching what we would think or what God would have us to do, right? We also have to take discernment. How are we going to make this the best Easter event that we can for the church, for the children, et cetera? So metrics help you plan with intention, with as little guesswork as possible. That's kind of my mentality on it. And the example would be attendance, right? How many people attended your Easter service last year and the year before that? And how can you that allows you to better prepare for this year. So I think the
Mhm.
image on the screen here is a great example of how our people platform gives you visibility into that reporting, right? It helps you to make those confident decisions. So looking at things like attendance from last year or the year before that, it's not just, okay, well, we need to plan for attendance for this year. It's so many more things than that, right? It's
Mm.
how many staff do we need to have on hand for the day? What does our
Yes.
seating need to look like? What does our kids' environment need to look like? How many volunteers do I need to recruit for for children's ministry for Easter Sunday? What does
Mhm.
check need to look like? If Easter is one of those events that's typically a really big boom for your church, the flow might need to look different for that
Right.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And then, all sorts of things. Attendance is just an example, right? But it
Mhm.
helps you to looking at those trends, looking at those metrics, using the software to help you make those informed decisions will
Right.
help you create that vision that will last you through the season, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we did have a question. Michael, you asked what product is being displayed currently, and this is our people software, our CHMS. And again, we just captured one screenshot here to give you just a quick view. This is one of the reporting. It's kind of like a dashboard, I guess, but you can just see over time. It's an easy visual report, if you will. But you can, within the people software, you can record how many salvations you had, baptisms, if you're tracking that. Like, you can track very specific metrics all year round so that you can go back and look. So, like, for example, understanding how many people were baptized last year, or salvation, right? Let's go with salvation. That might be it. Well, both are important, right? That allows you to prepare. Our church, when people do accept Christ, we have something for them as they're leaving. We have some resources to make sure that they can start their journey with Jesus, understand what that looks like. And so if you have some indication of the number of salvations you had last year, you at least have some sort of baseline of how many of these takeaway kits, Jesus kits, you need to have prepared for people this weekend. Same thing with baptism. Baptisms take a minute. You want to be respectful with those and make sure people have a moment to cry, celebrate, however they want to feel in that moment. You want to give time and freedom for families to experience that too. You don't want to rush through. If you have some sort of idea, if you plan on doing baptisms, if you have some sort of idea on how many people did that last year, participated last year, well, that's not a good example. You'll know how many people are getting baptized that day, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. Understanding those metrics, what happened last year, gives you a baseline for what's going to happen this year. Hopefully you're expectant for even more, and you will prepare accordingly. So yeah, anything else on this before we move on, guys?
I will also say, I use a metric in our children's ministry for any special occasion that is not, I don't just look at the children's ministry head count, so the
Mm.
check-in
Right.
number for that Sunday compared to previous years. I
Mhm.
also look at the metric that our church records for like the number of people that were present. Our church is kind of big, so they use a couple of things, right? If they gave, if they checked in, et cetera,
Sure.
to come up with, we had, 700 people present.
Yes.
They also count empty seats and things like that. So I take that ratio because there might be more adults in attendance one year and less children,
Yeah.
et cetera. I kind of look at a ratio
Mm.
year over year, and it really helps me to I'm gonna be honest, not over prepared. One of
Yeah.
I don't you never wanna be under prepared and not have
Right.
enough. But you also
Right.
never wanna have 300 kits left over that
Sure.
you
Sure.
have to then figure out what to do with, right? Because
Yeah.
then that's not being a
Wow.
good steward of your resources. So, I
Yes.
struggle with that balance, and I have found that using that ratio of children to adults and
Mm.
comparing that over special occasions really helps.
Yeah, that's so smart, Kira. Yeah, I'm an over preparer when it comes to like meals,
Yeah,
especially. Like,
me too.
everybody's going to need 3 helpings. It'll be fine. Drive my husband crazy. Okay, we're going to do our first poll, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and launch this. You'll see it in the tab over to the far right. You should also have a little notification bubble at the bottom of your screen. So jump in there and engage with that. Let us know, how would you describe your church's current approach to managing Easter planning, people, and communication? So this is kind of talking overall. How are you actually facilitating this? And obviously we have talked about metrics and the importance of that. And maybe you're on here and you're like, we literally have people sign in on a piece of paper, and that's fine too. As long as you're tracking something, you go. If you would like to up your game a little bit and have something a little bit more technical to be able to look at those metrics, and you don't already have a wonderful option, hopefully today you can kind of see some of the functionality in our platform and you feel encouraged and curious. If so, let us know. Otherwise, just what take away from this webinar, what you'd like, what you need, and leave what you don't. But we are here really mostly to help you with kind of some thought leadership ideas, but obviously our product does facilitate a lot of what we're talking about today. So looks like we have using multiple tools that don't connect as the highest vote count. And that is another benefit here at Ministry Brands, is our products all talk to each other. And so giving will automatically push into the CHMS. You can set up some workflows and all sorts of fun stuff to be able to have all of those systems working together. We're going to talk through multiple platforms, and they all already connect. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, let us know. But otherwise, we do have some folks still manual, and I love that for you. But I think that it might be helpful to your staff if you would consider doing some of that in a platform. But yeah, guys, this is a great opportunity to kind of learn a little bit more about that. If you're interested, we still have a little bit of time. We can help you out before Easter hits. But thank you so much for giving us that information. This is super helpful for us to know kind of who we're talking to and how we can support you even more specifically in our messaging today. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. It looks like the votes have kind of slowed down. We'll have another poll here in just a minute, but we are going to move on. Okay, so communication.
All right. So I'm going to talk about this first, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Getting the word out is so important. And like I said, I was a little panicked that maybe my church had not started Easter planning when I was prepping for this webinar. And so to hear Jonathan say we start next week makes me feel so much better. So if you haven't started promoting for Easter, if you don't have your plan, your vision, etc., don't panic. We're all in the same boat. And you're in the right place and can still create that momentum very quickly, right? Mm-hmm. The goal is consistency. As long as you plan and communicate consistently, you'll be fine. But for me, I want to talk about promotion from my perspective as a children's director, right? For me, it's about removing friction. So let's be real. I did this kind of internal survey with parents and visitors and things that came through my children's ministry space at church a few years back. One of the most asked questions when someone is going to visit a church is, what is the dress code? They'll find a place to park. They'll find where they need to go. Obviously, all of those things need to be thought through. But people fret about what to wear to church more than they do anything else. Because they don't want to show up and be underdressed. They don't want to show up and be overdressed. They want to fit in and they don't want to stand out.
Yeah.
And so for me, people want to come, but they need to know what to expect, right? They need to know what's happening. They want to know when it's happening, etc. So visuals matter, because if you're new, if you're visiting, unless you're Kira, who's super extroverted, you're probably not going to just stop the first person in the atrium or the foyer, etc. Right? So I always prepare in 2 lanes. I prepare digitally and I prepare physically. So digitally, I prepare social media posts. I do website banners for our church website. We push text messages to our or push notifications to our parents. We do email to our parents. You can never over communicate. I know that people say, oh my gosh, I can't stand the fact that I get an email and a text message, but I promise you that if you didn't send those things, they would complain more. So there's no such thing as over communication to people. So from a digital perspective, I try to cover all of those avenues. And then from a physical perspective, it's what people can see and touch, right? One of the things that reaches people the most in our community is the physical postcard, like not the one that you put in the snail mail, but like the one that goes home with the kid on Sunday morning, right? So I print postcards for everything because they typically have a space on their refrigerator where things are going. And when that date passes, I'm handing out something for the next event that's happening, and they just replace it on their refrigerator, and there it sits, right? This fun advertisement, hey, Easter is coming up, right? So we do pull-up banners. We post those throughout our church. I say posters or flyers, what have you, right? And then the take-home pieces. That's really our physical kind of reminder that this is coming. I think one of the most important ways to promote anything, but let's call it Easter for this, for this sake, is through kids. Kids get excited about things. They want to participate when there's something fun and inviting that's going to be happening. And so when you create that invitation through kids, you tend to draw in, right? Like you draw in their friends, you draw in their parents' friends, etc. Because, hey, can so and so come and spend the night and go to church with us? That sort of thing, right?
That's great. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that.
So I'll also say that I start for Palm Sunday. So I promote Easter through Palm Sunday. So Palm Sunday is your promotion opportunity. Easter is setting the tone, right? Like Easter is what you're trying to get people to participate in. And you have those weeks leading up to Palm Sunday where you have the opportunity for invitation. So that's kind of where I start. I consider Palm Sunday an opportunity to invite, if you will.
Yeah.
For example, our kids this year will be painting rocks, like Jesus has risen, whatever the message will be on the rocks that they will choose. And then we will have a join us for Easter sticker that goes on the bottom of those rocks that they can then place wherever they choose that week.
Oh,
as a part of Holy Week, right?
Yeah.
So
that's cute. Like publicly, like
yeah. It's just one way, right? Just one physical, creative way to, to promote, but also to teach kids about the importance of Easter, why we celebrate, all of those things. So,
yeah. Love it.
Going back just 1 second to people want to understand, right? Questions that people ask. I live in a small town here in Florence, South Carolina. We have a Facebook group called the Florence Moms Network. There are thousands upon thousands of moms in this Facebook group. And these are the types of questions that I see all the time. They post these types of questions. We're looking for a church. We want a place that is easy to park, easy to navigate, help me understand what to wear, what should I expect, when are the services. They don't want to be surprised. People want to blend in, right? They don't want to show up and stand out or be called out on the front row, right? So when you're creating your vision, when you're creating your promotion, when you're deciding how you're going to bring those people into Easter, those are things that you want to cover in that consistency, right? You want to cover where to park, what to wear, what time. et cetera. And you want to be consistent in your promotion. So consistency is key, like Jonathan said earlier. In our church, it's one image. We don't change the image for children's ministry. One image, whether we post that on social media, whether we post that on the bottom of a sticker on the bottom of a rock, whether that's, whatever it is, it's a single image that they can recognize that gives the time, gives I'm drawing a blank, the website, right? Our website for the church. And then when you click on those images, those banners, it's what to expect, right? It's casual, or it's this, or it's this, right? Like park here, et cetera, et cetera. So just as you're thinking about getting the word out, so you've prayed about it, you're creating your vision, you're establishing what you want that message to look like, and then you're deciding how you're going to get it out. Make sure that it's consistent, and make sure that you over communicate, right? You want people to feel like they can walk in the door, sit on the back row, and be fed without standing out in the crowd.
Yeah. And that's the last thing on here. Make it easy for people to say yes to attending. And kind of on this slide here, you can see there's a graphic. We have a media platform within Ministry Brands that would allow you, there's a full kit that you can use. So it's got the same imagery, the same font across all the different channels that you'd want to communicate. And so some of that work is done for you. You can kind of customize some pieces of it, but that really reduces the load on maybe having to create multiple things, right? All of that's kind of together in one place. So I don't know, Jonathan, are you covering the product function here?
Yeah, absolutely. This is probably like my most exciting thing about Easter, because I just absolutely love this process, having just materials across all of these different platforms that are consistent and help first-time guests. And so website landing pages are like the most important thing that I think a church can do to promote their Easter services coming up. Just think about how many people are searching on Google, churches near me, right? And Easter services near me, what's happening near me. And so exactly what Kira was saying is having a page on your website where people can get answers to those questions that they're wondering, just like in that Facebook group. I see those same exact questions in our Facebook groups, and people do have these questions. And so having an Easter landing page gives you the ability to tell them all the important information, what's happening, when it's happening, where it's happening, but also remove the barrier to make it super easy for them to know what to expect when showing up, right? And so answering those questions, what should I wear? What about my kids? All the things that they're asking about, you can have a single place to answer all of those questions. But also taking it like a step further, making it super easy. As you know, like I have 5 children, so going anywhere for the first time can be like hectic, crazy, especially a church. I can remember going to churches for the first time and taking like 30 minutes just to like sign our children in for the first time, right? Because they're asking all the questions. What's our emergency contacts? What allergies do they have? And it's such a lengthy process your first time somewhere. So giving them the ability to like pre-fill that information by like pre-registering to come is a great opportunity on this site. We call that plan your visit, and allowing them to input all their children's information. So when they show up on Sunday, they just type in their phone number and check right in, right? So I mean, on top of that, like you said, Jessica, the Easter graphics, I love that. Our media module gives just a huge opportunity here for churches that aren't so creative or graphically inclined. Maybe we don't have anybody on staff for like graphic ability. We create so many free graphics as well as others to help promote your Easter services, Palm Sunday service, Good Friday services. And those are a great resource to start, because again, it's helping create that consistent theme across all the different communication channels. So whether it's website, whether it's postcards that you're mailing out or sending out or handing out to friends and family, whatever it is, it helps create a consistent look across all of them.
Jonathan, you kind of spoke to, at least getting kids checked in. Let me take 1 minute to talk about forms real quick.
Yeah.
We have some functionality, and honestly, a lot of church management platforms have this functionality as well. But we have a super robust forms builder. So you can use those forms for all sorts of things. Checking in kiddos early is, at its core, it is a form that those parents would complete. We have a screenshot here for Easter Fest. That is an event registration form. All of those forms have different ways that they can be shared. You can share through a text keyword, say, text the word Easter to our text giving number, our text number, whatever. You can do a QR code that you can throw up on slides like those pre-service slides. Scan here to sign up for our next week, I don't know, spring cookout or something. So you can use those forms to capture information. And not only does that help your metrics that we talked about at the very beginning, but it just gives you more detail on the people that are attending or wanting to attend so that you can serve them super, super well. And we'll talk about workflows a little bit later, but you can kind of automate some intentionality if you are in a larger church where it's just not realistic for pastors, even kids directors, to be able to meet every single new family. If you want intentional, obviously Kira is a super intentional person. So to be able to spend the time that Kira would desire with each of those new families, is unrealistic on that Sunday morning. So you can kind of capture information that allows you to then follow up with people after in a super intentional way, depending on how much information you're capturing. So helpful for before, right? Giving them a chance to fill out a contact us form or the kids registration form. And then during the service, maybe like you've accepted Christ today, fill out this form with 2 fields, like I've accepted Jesus, my email address is this, whatever, keep it, super concise, but you're capturing information there. And then even after the fact, how are you leveraging that information? So just a quick note on forms there. And then, Kira talked about push notifications or text messages to inform your church. You can also send these, like your landing page that you've created. Hey, we can't wait to see y'all for Easter. Send this to anyone who hopes to visit with us so they can get an idea, get all their questions answered. I think that would be a great way to, one, promote Easter again, right? This is another little nudge. We're having Easter. Here's the times, reminder. Also invite a guest and have them check out this page to know what they can expect.
Absolutely.
So 2 birds
I
with
want to
one
add
stone.
one thing to that.
Yeah.
This is something that we do like every year. We typically have a huge outreach, like an Easter egg hunt outreach, right? And so last year we tried something new. We advertised the heck out of it on Facebook, right? So ran paid advertisements to Easter egg hunt landing page where we collected people's information to RSVP for the event. It was free to enter, but you had to RSVP to come, right? And the only purpose we did that was to collect phone numbers and email addresses. And then right after that Easter egg hunt, we invited everybody to Easter services, and we saw our largest Easter Sunday ever, simply because we hosted this amazing outreach event, collected their information, and then was able to do something with their information.
Yeah. Okay. Kira and Jonathan, guys, we got a lot to cover and we're moving too slow. So just a little bit more, but we'll try to get through some of this a little bit more quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can be quick on this slide around planning a meaningful worship experience. So, especially for Easter, right? But let's be clear. There is nothing worse than one, not understanding what to expect from a worship service, right? Or 2, going into a worship service and there being kids that are talking and you can't concentrate, or chatter going on behind you and you're missing what's going on in front of you because you can't concentrate, right? And so those are types of things that you want to eliminate when you're, trying to create this very meaningful atmosphere, especially for a special service like Easter, right? So you're planning for both members and guests on that day. And so one of the biggest pieces that helps with that is volunteer coverage, right? And I'm going to get there on how I'm connecting those dots. But at our church, we have a very simple culture expectation. we ask our volunteers to sit one and serve one every single Sunday. So, a lot of our many of our volunteers serve every single Sunday. Some of them serve on a rotation, but regardless, they are expected to sit one, and that meaning sit in service for one of the services and then serve the other service. So because of that, on special occasions like Palm Sunday or Easter, it's going to matter more, right? Because we're going to ask more volunteers to be present, and that is going to be amplified, right? And and hopefully your guest experience is amplified. Hopefully you have more people coming in the door to attend your worship service. So what we do from a children's ministry perspective for any special occasion in our church, whether it's a worship night, Easter, Palm Sunday, Christmas, it doesn't matter. You should always expect, with an increased flow of people, there are going to be people who don't feel comfortable sending their children into a children's ministry space for the first time, right? Whether that's the child is nervous, the parent doesn't know the people, etc., right? They're visiting for the first time. Hey, we're just going to sit together today, right? So we prepare special content for kids. Primarily, it is used for our volunteers, kids who are not staying for both services and children's ministry. We encourage our children to go to service so they can begin learning to sit in corporate worship. But we create special content. So we put together coloring pages, gospel story, take home, packets, what have you, right? Our pastor always gives me the content, that not necessarily the sermon, but maybe the Bible reference, the title of the sermon, etc., that he's going to be preaching on for those services. And then I use that to create word searches, coloring pages, etc., that go with the sermon, fill in the blanks that are easy for kids to follow, etc. That gives them the opportunity to be able to sit in corporate worship, learn how to do that if they're not going to attend children's ministry. So
practical.
Meaningful worship service experience is not only about letting them know what to expect, but that atmosphere while they're there, right? And so sometimes that can involve rowdy kids. So
That's brilliant, because that's definitely an issue at every church. Guarantee it. And you're right. Maybe it's a first time family and they're like, I don't know these people. I'm not dropping my kids off in here. And so bringing them with them, having, that's just such a great idea. Carrie, you're full of great ideas. Okay, we're going to move on here. Jonathan.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll quickly go through this, but probably one of the things I'm most passionate about at our church, and I was told I'm looking in the wrong camera, so I'm sorry, but service planning and planning out the service for everything that you're expecting, right? So volunteers, the production team, the worship team, every of the service, and making sure that you have coverage for all of those areas on a Sunday where you probably have increased attendance, which means increased volunteer counts needed, especially in kids ministry, right? Increased amount of volunteers that you need for greeters, etc. And so our service planning module does exactly that. It allows you to not stress about all the different things that you need to plan for, but specifically make sure that you have coverage across all of those areas. But something else that we've kind of been talking about as well is we're talking about a lot of guests coming to your church, but there's also still a significant amount of guests that won't physically be able to come to your church for whatever reason. Maybe they're, in a hospital, or maybe they're homesick, or maybe there's some other reason. But that's where our streaming platform comes in handy, because there will still be an increased amount of people that will want to check you out online. They'll probably never come into your building, and this gives you the ability to extend your Easter services outside of your building. And so being able to take what's happening in the building and stream it to multiple places. We know people are on Facebook, they're on YouTube, taking the message wherever they are, maybe on your website, from one place. And that's exactly what our streaming module does, is allows you to have one place where it's pushing it to everything.
Yeah, click once and then it shows all over. So, yeah,
Exactly.
great call out. Yeah, there will be people watching online, probably more than usual. So, and there's ways to make that intentional too. There's a chat functionality. You are able to, right from there too, have people fill out those same dang forms and then be put
That's
into
right.
workflows for follow up and engagement after. So, tools like these help you be automatically intentional, right? You want to be intentional. I know that's your heart. That's why you're in ministry. And so this just allows you to do it in a way that's a little bit more automated. So it's not on you to remember everything that needs to be thought of for that day. I'm gonna, Jonathan, if you don't mind, just kind of giving us a little bit of your perspective on a pastor who has to talk about giving on a regular basis. I know that's not
Yeah.
generally the favorite. So tell us your thoughts here.
Yeah, for sure. Especially on Easter Sunday, right? I personally, I feel awkward oftentimes talking about giving. It can especially feel awkward on Easter Sunday because there's a lot of guests. You have the thoughts that you're battling with. Should we even mention giving? Should we talk about it? We don't want to feel like anybody just walked into a fundraising event for your church
Mhm.
that Sunday.
Right.
But I realized something very, very important over time is that talking about generosity isn't unpastoral. It's actually very deeply pastoral because generosity is discipleship. And Easter is one of the greatest stories of all time, right? It's the greatest act of generosity in human history that God gave his son for us. So it shouldn't be whether we talk about it or not, but really how do we talk about it on such a specific Sunday. And so at our church, I usually say something along the lines of like, hey, if this is your first Sunday with us, there's no ask here. Don't feel any obligation to give. This service is our gift to you. But for those of you that call our church home, we're gonna continue in worship through generosity now. And so what we do is we're very intentional on how we talk about generosity. We flow from gratitude, not guilt. So we talk about what God's doing in our church, what stories are inside of our church, when somebody's encountered hope, or when somebody experienced life change, when someone sees impact. When these things are talked about from the stage, giving becomes a response and wanting to support what God is doing, as opposed to feeling guilted into giving. And so we talk about it all the time about informs of life change. So stories, impact, baptisms, families that were restored, kids hearing the gospel for the first time, outreach, how they're making a difference, not just in the people in our church, but also in the community. Yeah. And so when we talk about it like that, I feel like it begins to feel more natural, and Easter generosity should feel hopeful, not heavy. And so it's become a lot easier.
Yes, good. I'm glad to hear that. I want to piggyback off that a little bit too, and say that a lot of times people are coming to a church for the first time. It is a no-brainer. This is like tale as old as time. Churches are in communities to help those communities. So a lot of times, if someone is a first-time guest, I would just say, if I were a pastor, I would say, hey, you're probably curious how our church serves this community. Scan this QR code if you want to find out more. If you feel called to help us support our community, here's how you can give. That would allow a first-time guest the option to say, actually, this is kind of cool, and I know exactly what that soup kitchen is because I support them separately as a volunteer, but I didn't know that this church does it financially. So sometimes there'll be that natural connectivity and that natural, like, my heart is compelled because I resonate with this mission. That's not giving to a church, but the church being kind of a pass through on that generosity. And so I'm going to speak to a little bit more of the technical side of this. This is a Sunday where you want to make giving as frictionless as possible. You're trying to get through a lot in your service, just like we're trying to get through a lot in this webinar. And so you want to make this super easy for folks. So there is, the option for a QR code. Most giving platforms have this. You also probably have the option to do text giving. But one key important thing that I want to call out is on a weekend where you have a lot of first-time guests, what they don't want to do is pull out their credit card and punch in the numbers on a tiny screen with their thumbs. Okay. Digital wallets are great here. They can just log in real quick to their Apple Pay, their Google Pay, their Venmo, and they can give that way. And again, it's removing that piece of friction. It makes them feel more comfortable. It's something that they already know. And so it feels even more secure. So if you haven't enabled digital wallets, if you're part of Ministry Brands Giving and you already have this platform, yay, we love you. If you haven't turned on digital wallets, we really encourage you to consider doing this for Easter and just see what happens with those first-time guests. If they take you up on the invitation to give, there's a good chance they will use those platforms, even if they're already an existing giver. This may be the option they choose because it's comfortable and it's probably the most up-to-date place where they house their payment methods. It's a little easier to swap out your payment methods within those platforms, those applications. So just some food for thought on there. Again, like Jonathan, it's a weird Sunday to ask, right? But if you do make the ask, then the Holy Spirit does his part and moves on people's hearts. Your responsibility is to make it super easy and frictionless for them to participate in that act of worship. Okay, moving right along. We've got another poll. I'm going to go ahead and open this poll up and then also keep talking. So hopefully we've got lots of people that can multitask. This poll speaks to your confidence. Okay, so again, that poll is going to pop up next to the chat. But this is going to speak to the confidence that your church has with the ability to follow up with guests and move them into next steps. So this is a challenge. Let me just say this, for as long as I've worked at this company, this is a challenge generally across the board if you're not capturing information. You kind of just lose people, right? And so this is maybe a way to think through like, okay, we've talked about these forms, we've talked about this information. This is an opportunity to really think through those logistics and say, how efficient are we? How confident are we that we can follow up with people that make a decision or want to come back? So looking at votes, and most of y'all are somewhat confident, which is somewhat good. I appreciate your honesty, and honestly, that's not surprising at all. So as we kind of talk through some other functionality here, maybe just food for thought on thought leadership pieces on how to do this well, and then maybe some little product help on how to do this well. Let me get to the next slide here.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so important that we reach out to guests within 24 hours because, again, they're already making the decision after attending your church. Am I going to come back or not? And they're talking about those things on the way home from church, right? And so if you wait too long, you're going to lose your guests. You're going to lose their curiosity about your church. They're going to be thinking about Monday morning at work. They're going to be thinking about what they have the rest of the week. And so what I think is super important is responding or reaching out to guests within 24 hours of their visit. Speed matters. And if we're silent, it communicates that we really don't have an interest in them to begin with. And so when you communicate with them right away, I always hear this if I communicate with somebody on a Sunday afternoon. Wow, thank you so much for reaching out. It's so cool that we actually heard from you today. And so follow up, it's not about a sales pitch, but it's about shepherding people. It's about pastoring people after Sunday experience. So was Easter successful? We can really measure that over the next couple of weeks on whether those people have had an impact on their life. Did they come back? And if we delay follow-up, it really lowers the return rates of our first-time guests dramatically. And I've talked to so many people where they've said, "Oh yeah, we don't reach out to them at all, or we just send a postcard," and it's so unpersonal. It feels like a sales pitch. And so people are looking for community. They're looking for connection, especially in today's world. And this is an awesome opportunity to be personal with them. Use their name, reference something about them, or reference something about the service. Try to avoid like generic church lingo, but be a human with them. And I love that. I know Kira is going to talk about our system in just a little bit, but there's ways to do that within our system as well, and invite them to that one simple next step. Like, what is it for your church? Is it inviting them back next Sunday, or is there maybe a first-time guest experience where they can meet and greet with the pastor? But inviting them to one simple next step instead of like just telling them everything about your church on the first phone call is super important.
That's a good one.
And this is definitely everything that Jonathan just covered is definitely an area where workflows and interactions can make a huge, huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
So in the people platform, this is a just a singular screenshot, like Jess mentioned earlier. It's a screenshot of our workflows functionality. So you can create a workflow that automatically triggers when someone takes a next step, right? When they fill out the guest card, when they scan the QR code, when they mark themselves as being a first-time visitor, instead of relying on your Miss Betty to input that information, make sure she calls them, make sure she puts a reminder to follow up with them, etc. The system creates that follow-up plan for you. They help, workflows definitely, they help me. I do the same thing in children's ministry, right? I follow up with every single child that comes for the first time. They walk away with something that day as a thank you, but I also follow up and send a fun postcard in the mail, and I follow up with the parents. Usually from a children's ministry perspective, it's a text message because the church is already operating on a workflow system, right? They're contacting that parent who visited for the first time, but nothing's more fun than receiving a text message that said, "We so enjoyed having little Bobby today at church, and thank you for trusting us with him." And it just creates that kind of invitation over again. So workflows are definitely something that I use to create that automation and not miss. Children's ministry is a part of the workflow process for an adult, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good call out. Yeah. There's two parts to the workflows and then intentions or interactions, not intentions, but those are actually two different things. And you can work the interaction into the workflow to say, the workflow says this person needs a phone call. The interaction assigns the phone call to someone as a reminder with all the information they need. So, this is a lot of, on the back end, this is like amazing for your staff, but for, on the receiving end, they would never know the difference. They would be shocked and amazed that you were able to call everybody who was a first-time guest. So, I think it's fantastic.
Let me give you a real life example, like an everyday Sunday example to go along with this, not just Easter. Think about the number of times that people have gone missing from your church because no one followed up with them. They had a surgery, they were out for an extended period of time because they had a death in their family, or something happened, right? They lost trust, something happened in their life, and they stepped away from church and they never got followed up with. And what happens is those people eventually tell their friends, "Well, I was gone for 3 months and I never heard a single thing from anybody."
Yeah.
How cool would it be if that person, somebody in the church knows that somebody's family member passed away or the said person is sick, right? And maybe you knew, but they slipped through the cracks, right? So in our church, everybody on staff has a responsibility to report those things. If they know something, they have to send an email. And once that email is sent, it automatically adds that person, to the workflow, like a follow-up hospitality type workflow situation where they don't fall through the cracks, right? Someone follows up and says, "Hey, we've been missing you.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do?" etc. Right? So-and-so's been in the hospital. And all of those types of scenarios, workflows and interactions help prevent that crack. They help prevent people falling through that crack. So just a real life example, because I hear that happen all the time with people. My child was sick, no one followed up, no one came to the hospital to visit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Someone somewhere, probably heard, "Hey, I haven't seen so-and-so in a while," or, the report shows that little Bobby hasn't checked in for 6 months, right?
Exactly.
So you can easily add those people to a workflow and assign an interaction, and then you don't miss that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It just makes pastoring that much easier. Yeah. So, Kira, you're going to do this for us, weren't you?
Yeah, it's okay. So as we wrap up today, we have talked a lot. We're probably way over time, as you can tell, we're all extroverts here, so we love to talk about this kind of thing. But we do want to leave you with the simple framework, a reminder of it, right? So first, your vision and goals. Make sure that you decide what you want Easter to accomplish for your church, for your mission, for God. It's not about attendance. It's not just about the impact. It's not just about connection. It's about all of those things wrapped up together. Second, your promotion and your communication, right? Get the word out, get it out early, get it out often, but most importantly, be very consistent. Be very consistent in your graphics, your wording, what they see on the screen when they click on the banner on the website, etc. Be very consistent. Three, your volunteers and logistics. Plan ahead. You will need extra volunteers. It makes life so much easier. If you don't have that, that's okay. Build your sit one, serve one culture, especially for your special Sundays, right? Prepare so that your worship experience is beneficial for both members and guests, right? Guests can show up, keep it clear, keep it welcoming, centered on the message, provide those, the kids' packets, provide the opportunity for quiet learning, right? So that everyone has the same experience. Generosity is the fifth one. So like Jonathan said earlier, it's a unique experience. Hearts are open, people are open in general, on special occasions, especially things like Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday, Holy Week, etc. So make your giving very simple, make it clear. Digital wallets, like we talked about, are so so easy. I know that I do everything via digital wallet, right? Like if I can't pay online without my digital wallet, we're probably in trouble because I don't even know where my credit card is. And then lastly, your new guest follow-up. The credit card is in a back pocket somewhere that's probably being lost is what happened. And then my husband is saying, this is the third credit card you've lost. So you guys get the point, right? New guest follow-up, right? So your service is just the beginning, and the real opportunity is what's going to happen next, right? Did you make an impact in their life? Are they going to return? Even if they don't return, impact is the kingdom build there, right? Maybe they've made a choice. Maybe they were visiting. My family likes to visit churches every time we travel on vacation. We pick a random church to visit and explore. But what if there was an impact on that Sunday and you guys didn't know about it? It's so important to be able to celebrate those wins for Christ. So follow up is so key. As you're planning for Easter over the next couple of weeks, keep those things in mind.
Yeah. And honestly, ultimately, sharing the Easter story should be your focus. And for at this point, we're repeating ourselves, but truly use the tools that you have so that your staff and volunteers can just focus on ministry, sharing the gospel, making people feel seen and heard while they're there, even before they come, and definitely after they come. Really, that's the point here. All of the work that you're doing leading up to this should be just so that Easter does what Easter is supposed to do, and that is bring people the hope of Jesus. Jonathan, do you add something?
No, I was just going to say exactly that. It's not about creating a perfect event on Easter Sunday, but pointing people to a perfect Savior, and using the tools to help you do that is just going to make it so much easier.
Yes, so good. If you're still around, thank you so much. I do have a quick survey that I'm going to launch, and feel free to participate in that. That would really help us out. We're not going to see the answers on this until later, but if you're still here and you don't mind doing that for me, that would super help us know what kind of content you would like to learn about next. And then the last thing I want to share with you is just the resources that we're going to send. You're going to get this recording recording, as I mentioned at the beginning, and you're going to get the ebook that we based this framework on. Additionally, we actually have so many Easter resources in our Healthy Church Hub right now. So that's ministrybrands.com/Healthy Church Hub. There are so many things. I think we've got like 3 podcast episodes, multiple blogs. The one that I'm going to send to you in the post-webinar email is Planning a Memorable Easter Service. That conversation was with Ben Stapley, and he talks about some free ways, things that do not cost money, that make your service more memorable. So it was a really great conversation. He's super passionate about this. Ben has a ton of experience as a church leader, but also as a conference speaker and a consultant. So much wisdom that he brought to that conversation. So you will have the link to that podcast in your post-webinar email. Pass that along to anyone who didn't get a chance to attend today. And that's really it. So I'm going to close out this survey, and yeah, you guys will again get this recording tomorrow. And thanks again for being here. Have a wonderful Lenten season. It kicked off today. Yeah, I'm going to be fasting sugar, so y'all pray for me. But hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. And again, thank you for being here. Thanks, Kira and Jonathan, for your time and your passion. And I really appreciate you guys helping me out. So thank you all. We will see you later.
Yeah. Bye, y'all.